Today is a very good day. Today is the start of a new era. Things are kind of shit. Don't get me wrong, they've always been a little shit. But she's gone. And do you hear that, Carol?
What's that?
It's silence. The world's a little bit more quiet because Margie is out of the house. I'm happy. Gotta take the small victories, right?
I suppose it's a mixed bag, right? Because, like, the reason that she is resigning is because her own people have just been sending so many death threats.
Correct.
So it's like, who is it actually a victory for?
Her, because she gets fucking retirement money. Or whatever the stipend thing is.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, she gets pension.
She gets playing on all y'all. Welcome to the Schmoes show. I'm Mr. Ryan, and I'm in 2026.
And I'm Cairo, and I'm also a Schmo.
And, it didn't take long this year before we invaded Venezuela, did it?
No. 2 days.
Yeah.
I guess technically you could argue 3. It was on the 3rd day of the new year. Yeah. The whole thing is just hard to get my head around still, I'll be honest.
No, I totally get it because, like,
yeah.
How does this happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is the most insane shit I've ever heard, and I still can't believe it happened.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you...
I have a thing that I wrote down to keep my thoughts straight that I was going to talk about more later, but I think part of it at the end is a big theme of how I've been feeling over these last couple of weeks with the news that we've been having.
Yeah.
And it's the idea that a big A America is dead at this point. That the idea of a system of government with checks and balances that are meaningful doesn't really exist anymore.
No, it's a mafia right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you to some extent.
I don't know. We had, because this is the thing, is that this started, we talked about this on our last show 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah. Where
on fucking Christmas Eve, we had already started this crap. There's already land strikes, quote unquote, land strikes against Venezuela on fucking Christmas Eve, claiming to target a facility that was housing drug boats. Then 5 days later, Trump pardons the former president of Honduras, who was charged on like narco terrorism, importing massive amounts of drugs into the US. And they get a pardon for no reason. And no one in the administration seems to even know who the guy is practically. We had Marco Rubio on ABC, who, says, I can't comment on it because I wasn't involved in deliberations. We have Trump, who seemingly doesn't even know who the guy is. It's such irresponsibility. And then that all comes to a head with the American government invading Venezuela and allegedly, quote unquote, arresting their president, Maduro. And no congressional oversight, no congressional approval, not even the thinnest veil like we had in after 9/11 of a War Powers Act or any sort of a War Powers resolution. It's just complete abandonment of the principles of American governance.
Well, yeah, because it's not a government; it's a fucking mafia. I I don't know, man. It sucks. Everything
I think
is.
calling them a mafia gives them too much credit.
You're right, because a mafia implies
It,
some sort of risk that's they're calculated against. Who's going to fucking stop them?
well, and organization.
Yeah, they're bullies.
They don't have organization. They have things that they want to do, and then they just do them.
Yeah, and every once in a while they get hit with a lawsuit or a judge says no. But I mean, like, if you do the things that are too big, like, who's going to stop you?
Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting, like, this current period in politics, right?
Mm-hmm.
It
It's
feels,
bizarre.
yeah, it's very, I don't know. I think it's like a climax of a whole bunch of rot that started way before our time, before you and I could even vote.
Mm-hmm.
So, in
Oh,
some
yeah.
respects, I take no credit for how things got this way, but man, it is nihilistic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Very much so. I have been thinking as well about how if if Trump is eventually found to be some sort of a Russian asset of some kind, like has been implied and suggested for decades at this point, it's pretty hard to think of the kinds of stuff they could do to more effectively break the union of the United States.
It is very much, I guess, like, the thing is, it feels like there's no Fed, and that every state is basically having to defend themselves.
Yeah, all the blue ones.
Yeah. I don't even know where to start with some of these stories because, like, I had this very dark realization that I don't see much school shooting news stories like we did, like, maybe 10 years ago. And that's probably because a lot of them transferred over to ICE killings.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they aged out.
Yeah, they aged out. It's kind of impressive.
It is. I don't know what was it that was suggested. There's this idea that um, people talking about the bonuses that ICE agents get. They've been bragging. The government's been bragging about these $50,000 signing bonuses, but those bonuses don't pay out until after 5 years. And people are talking about how, oh well, they don't care because they aren't here to get the bonus. They're here to do stuff like this. And I do think that it's important to keep in mind that if that was the case, then they wouldn't need to offer the bonuses. You know,
Hey,
if the point of this is just to get people in positions where they can abuse and kill other people, 50 grand is not going to matter to those types. It's hard to find the silver linings for sure. I do think it helps to look at what a lot of these people are trying to do next, though,
yeah.
because you can't unarrest Maduro, right? And I think there's probably some pretty reasonable arguments that now that the guy is in the US, even though that was explicitly illegal, it is probably more important to look to what is going to happen next. What is Venezuela going to do? What is the US government going to try to do? And what can we do to stop these things from happening again in other countries? Because that is where a lot of the discussion has shifted, is to where next. And I don't know. What was it? I don't think I have it anymore. There is an interesting roundup that pointed out all of the countries that the US has had military action in Trump's first term. Um, there's something like 8 or 9 of them, and they were bringing up that question of like, how is this going to change come this time next year? Uh, and the obvious ones right now, at least, I guess there's sort of 3 of them. Um, for some fucking reason, they are still on the Greenland thing.
I forgot about that.
They are still talking about, and they've been bolstered now. Now that this Venezuela thing went off so well, there's no accountability, no oversight. They want to invade Greenland, and it makes no damn sense. And you can tell in the way that they talk about it that they don't understand anything. Trump was saying some shit this week about how, oh, they get a right to it because they had boats land there 500 years ago. Well, I bet we had boats land there 500 years ago. No, we didn't, because the U.S. wasn't a country 500 years ago. What the fuck are you talking about?
It's just Grandpa mixed up his Zionist propaganda with his American propaganda.
It's so weird. And I think the most credible, sensible, or not sensible, but like in a way that makes sense, trying to understand why are they so obsessed with Greenland is just that they don't understand maps. They don't understand that the classic map of the world that we see that makes Greenland look so big is massively stretched out because it's a projection of a sphere onto a piece of paper. Conceptually, that's just something that is beyond what their capacity is. So they think that Greenland is this gigantic thing north of them and north of Europe. Oh, and they have to have it because it's gigantic. Same with Canada. They don't understand the reality of these situations. If Trump figured out how big Brazil was, he'd lose his damn mind.
It is really weird, isn't it? Fucking hell. Isn't Africa like supposed to be like 3 times larger than it actually is on a map?
Mm-hmm. It's huge.
Yeah, fucking massive.
Absolutely.
No wonder the Brits wanted it.
The other countries that are regularly coming up now in these discussions of where's next, Colombia is another big one, mostly because they have a history largely in the 80s and the 90s, which seems to be where a lot of Trump's ideology and opinions are stuck as being this, mainstay of the drug trade. I think that's another big part of it is that is the justification for a lot of this, is that the U.S. is being flooded with these drugs and something needs to happen to stop them. People are dying, and particularly fentanyl is the thing being discussed in all of these situations. But by and large, overwhelmingly so, what is happening in fentanyl production is that these are raw materials that are bought from China as, chemical components. And then either they are illegally imported into Mexico as those components and compounded, reacted into fentanyl, and then that is smuggled into the U.S. Or those individual components are what are smuggled into the U.S. and then it's made in the U.S. Colombia, Venezuela, Cuba, none of these places are involved in that trade almost at all. And yeah, they're still in doing drugs, but the rhetoric around it is one that is very obviously intended to confuse, where they hammer on about fentanyl and fentanyl and fentanyl, and then they go after the guy that's not doing fentanyl, but they still claim that they are because they've been saying fentanyl for the last 6 months.
Well, even then, like fentanyl, it always frustrates me, right? Because like I know somebody who does like pharmaceutical orders and whatnot, like a pharmacy technician, and like it is such a what's the word I'm looking for? Common occurrence in a pharmacy because it's like a very cheap, very easy to get and process like over the counter drug, not like over the counter, but like
with a prescription.
Yeah, with a prescription. And like I can see why doctors would want this stuff around, right? So like the whole narrative of like these South American drugs being brought in, it's a lie. It's just fucking capitalism doing its darnest. It's just a part of the opioid crisis.
Well, yeah, so exactly what I was going to say is the opioid crisis didn't start because people were smuggling drugs in. It started because doctors were getting extremely, happy to just give a prescription for painkillers to literally anything. And those places still exist. There's been a lot of people that have been prosecuted for it at that level of individual doctors' offices, but they're not gone.
No.
Yeah. The big one that I have seen, and I think it makes a lot of sense as the next target, real target that is for the government's interest, and it's going to be interesting to see how this actually polls because it's very obvious that Trump wants Greenland. That's his thing. He wants it, and it's kind of his fixation right now. But I think most people are also very aware that Trump isn't necessarily the one calling the shots at this stage. He's just there to be the figurehead. And if they can find a thing that keeps him entertained, he probably doesn't actually care what's happening. So that brings us to Cuba. Cuba is where I think we're going to see the next major U.S. military action, particularly because of Marco Rubio.
Oh, thanks, Mark.
That is the angle that I see this happening, is that we've talked about this through the year where we had Elon Musk's Doge, we had Ron Navarro's tariffs, we've had Stephen Miller's Nazi shit. I think the actual impetus for these actions against Venezuela is to create pretext for some sort of very obviously bogus military action in Cuba.
That's a really dangerous game to play.
It is. There are significant numbers of Cuban Americans and Cuban immigrants in the United States. And as we see with people like Marco Rubio, they've been around for a long time. These people's families aren't new people here. They have their own political agendas. And one of those agendas is to exert that political power that they now have to try and topple the government that sent their family here in the first place. So that's where my money's on. The alternative is going to be, well, in part because, Cuba's not part of the European Union, to put it mildly. Greenland being a component of Denmark is. And U.S. military action in Greenland, crazy as it is after just 2 weeks ago, seeing the U.S. military arrest, big air quotes, arrest a foreign leader of another country. Taking those actions and applying them in a European Union country would definitely be a further escalation. And one that I could see going very wrongly. Throughout all of this, I have been deeply frustrated by the inaction of America's supposed allies, where the US has been doing this shit, launching missiles, putting, military action in the list was like Syria, Iran, Iraq, Israel, of course, by way of Gaza, Yemen, Nigeria, fucking Nigeria, and now Venezuela. And we have Cuba teed up, we have Colombia teed up. If it goes to Greenland, I have to wonder if that's actually going to be the thing that pushes, the UK, France, Germany, fucking anybody, China. China's been actually doing some sanctions in retaliation, but those have been mostly self-interested ones. They've been in response to the US sanctions. Australia, Japan, South Korea. One of these people, I feel, has to take a moral stance at some point and be like, we're not going to do trade with your country until you figure out this human rights shit. Because it's clearly wrong. It is obviously wrong. And It is a problem that the American people will have to figure out on their own, I fear. But it sure would be nice to get a little bit of help every once in a while, wouldn't it?
You know, I agree with you completely. I've always thought it was very strange that I don't know. I've never heard anybody really give commentary on Donnie. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah. And genuinely, I kind of feel like Maduro's kidnapping, right, was that big middle finger. And I feel like anybody who runs a government right now and sees this kind of behavior might want to do something about that, because you can't have, like, I hate to say it, because, like, I don't know if I consider us a world superpower anymore, but we do have quite the power, you know? When you have a superpower like us going around kidnapping people, what do you do about that, right? Like, you're on the menu at that point. You're not safe.
Absolutely. And that is a very foundational element of, you know, national sovereignty, right? Is the idea that even if another country is doing something that you don't like, as long as it's not directly interfering with you, you probably shouldn't get involved, because it sets the precedent that anybody can do that now.
Yeah.
You know, what's to stop? You know, North Korea has been showing off their brand new nuclear powered submarines these last couple of weeks. The US just went and arrested the leader of Venezuela. What's to stop North Korea from trying to do the same to us? What moral standing would we have to say that that's wrong? We don't.
It's scary.
We forfeited that.
Yeah. Because, like, I guess this is what I have a real problem with, right? I kind of don't give a fuck about Donnie at the end of the day, because I doubt he's going to finish his term to, like, see the ramifications, consequences of his actions.
Yeah.
However, I am terrified about who's taking notes on what's going on right now for their own bid, you know? Because JD, I'm just saying, like, he's not that guy. But he sure wants to believe he's that guy.
Yeah. That is actually something that I'm expecting we're going to talk about with our next topic here, is how much JD is not that guy.
Dude, he's getting fucking... did you see that tweet I sent you?
I'm going to have to ask which one.
Yeah, I sent a million of these fuckers. Sorry. The one where...
the Twitter reply one?
By a YouTuber. Yeah. JD Vance, the vice president, is getting fucking shredded every time he posts on Twitter, and I fucking love it.
Log back in. Keep tweeting. You're not waking anyone up. We know Usha sleeps in the other room. My son played Roblox with your boys, by the way. Great kids. Usha did a great job keeping your influence out. Not hard, though, with how emotionally detached you are. 30,000 likes.
That is fucking insane. I forgot to send you this one particularly. But there's someone who tracks, like, all this discourse between the two of them. His wife follows him.
That's very funny.
Yeah. Usha... I can't pronounce her name. Dyslexic. I'm sorry. Usha Vance?
I believe so, yes.
Usha, I know you're listening. Queen shit.
That's very funny. Yeah, to that point, though, I guess that's as good a chance to get into the next major thing that's happened. ICE has started to ramp up the same kind of illegal BS that they have been doing all year, all of last year, in Minnesota now, in Minneapolis specifically. We saw this in Chicago multiple times over the fall and into the winter. We saw it in LA over the summer, in Washington D.C. at sometimes, and it has continued to escalate. With the major point this week being that an FBI, an ICE agent, has shot and killed a U.S. citizen in Minneapolis, and it did not take long for video of this to go out, and it is immediately obvious from watching any of the number of angles of video that there were of this shooting that the victim here, who was shot and killed by this ICE agent, was completely in the right. They were not breaking any laws. They were following orders, and they were not putting any of these ICE agents in any risk that those ICE agents did not intentionally put themselves in.
Yeah.
Um, the whole thing was horrific to start with. And I think what kind of broke me a little bit this week was just how quickly the government's statements defending their ICE agent both started and then went into blaming the victim very specifically.
Well, they
It
can't
seems
show
like
that
even on
weakness.
this
Yeah.
even on the scale that they operate at and the timelines that they operate on, this seemed predetermined is the best way that can think to put it. This is exactly the kind of thing that they have been trying to force happen for the last year. And it's now happened. And someone is, another person is dead because of this. And that's a point that I'm going to get into later because I do think it is an important one to make. But Renee Good, person who was shot and killed, it's horrible. It's horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Kristi Noem, I believe it is, head of the DOJ currently, dog killer.
Dog killer.
For those who might remember it that way, immediately took to the news circuit and to press conferences to, rather than give some sort of empty platitude like we might expect out of the typical law enforcement response, went in completely the opposite direction and has decided to brand Renee a domestic terrorist who, this is what they're saying, ran over this ICE agent and that the ICE agent used their weapon in self-defense. It is a lie. It is a brazen lie. And it is one that, to whatever small credit a lot of the media might get, has started to be pushed back against because it is so obvious a lie, but could still be pushed back against much more firmly. I've been casually keeping an eye on the weekend news circuit talk, and the CNN's Jake Tappers of the world are clearly making their stance on this known. They do not support the government. They are asking questions that are unfavorable to the government's position. It's very obvious in that regard. Mm-hmm. But then they go on to, in their tone, treat the mayor of Minneapolis in a much more talking down kind of way than they have with any of these administration officials. And if nothing else, it is frustrating as hell.
It's scary as hell.
It is. It absolutely is.
What I think is so interesting about this in the administration, right? They all behave like influencers, and a lot of like these stupid things that happen they are so, I don't want to say media trained, but they are media savvy enough to know how to attempt at making like a jab at the narrative. Yeah.
I actually have a phrase that I like for that because they are definitely not media trained. They are
No,
social media trained.
social media trained. Very good. Because they know how to make a statement
Yep.
and make it catchy.
Yep. I think
It's
we had the first crack in that happen over this last winter with Dan Bongino stepping down from his role in the FBI, where it is very obvious that the only thing that these people want to. So I guess to back up, looking at this from like a very high level, it's like what do these people actually want out of this? You have Trump who wants, I still think fundamentally, to not go to jail in the end of this. He doesn't want to die in a jail cell, and he knows he's old, and he wants to both not go to jail, and then he also has this, I want to get into heaven, and I'm not sure I'm going to get into heaven thing that he's brought up a couple of times. He is aware very much of his own mortality as a person, and he is trying to do anything and everything to not end up, either in a jail cell, or I guess it seems like there's almost this idea in his mind where the only kind of act that would have him go to hell, in his view, would be one where he is convicted of a crime and goes to jail, where that has to happen specifically before he's the bad guy. And that's his main motivation. Yeah. He's not a complicated man. We saw that with Venezuela, right? Talking about how he enjoyed seeing, the display of the U.S. military's power and how fast it was and how impressive it was. And that's like the kind of thing that might actually be what can sway him, what I expect will be used to sway him towards an invasion of somewhere that's not Greenland is, hey, Cuba's got all these militants. We can go in there and shoot up all the place and kill these bad terrorist guys. And you can watch the videos, Mr. President. The rest of them, though, are all podcasters.
Yeah.
We've had the vice fucking president basically take over a podcast of Charlie Kirk's now that he's dead. He's hosted it a bunch of times. He's co-hosted it with other people even more. He's been a guest on the damn thing. And he's, of course, also been on Erica Kirk's crap. On, I can't even remember her damn name, the Miller's wife who was probably having an affair with Elon Musk when she was working at Doge. She does a podcast now that's very bad, that is very explicitly like, let's get her something so she can make some money and have people on because she doesn't want to work in the government anymore kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then in December, we had Bongino resign from the FBI very specifically because he doesn't want to do the government work anymore. There was a question about the Epstein files on like a Fox News wannabe kind of program. And his statement was remarkably insightful, like in a self-looking way, where he said that, I used to be paid for my opinions and I'm not doing that anymore. Not yet. In talking about how, is the government actually saying the truth about these things? It was like, yeah, no, I used to lie about this stuff before because that was my job, but my job is different now. And I apparently Bongino was taking that relatively seriously, at least compared to the rest of them. And he has at least resigned before going back to doing the podcasting. So that's where we are. They all want to get in their sound bites, their Twitter digs. We had, in a couple of days after the shooting of Renee happened, we had a new camera angle released by the government that was kind of inexplicably, the guy who shot her was recording with his phone at the time. And he recorded the whole thing. And the government went and published this cell phone footage showing the perspective of the federal agent at the center of ICE-involved shooting in Minneapolis. And all of this circle has immediately went out and was just like, you should watch this video. It shows how the officer was, hit by the car, he was being harassed, and he did not murder this woman, and that this is the reality, that his life was in danger and he fired in self-defense. And it of course does not show that. It shows very little of anything because, when he reaches for his gun, he's not holding his phone anymore. And what it does show is an asshole who is harassing a woman who is doing literally nothing, and he decides to shoot her for it. And then to really cap it off, something that none of the other camera angles did, after he shoots her, his response is to call her a fucking bitch.
Yeah. Which is fucking crazy.
Yeah, isn't it?
Like, he didn't even know her.
It is the most stereotypical abuser mentality possibly ever. The why did you make me shoot you kind of shit. Why did you make me punch you? Why did you make me hit you? Like, no. It's so messed up. And that's where the debate has been, because this video is so obviously not exculpatory. It is damning. It is just as damning as all of the rest. And the sensible take that I think has come out of this is that they didn't actually release this to try and make their guy look not guilty. They released this to advertise, to be like, hey, look what this guy got away with. That could be you. That was the other part of this that I've been thinking about, how the administration wants a government devoid of accountability. How if some pathetic coward can get away with murder, it gives them a mandate to then do much, much worse. And if a reason doesn't exist to do worse, they will then gleefully make one up, like we saw in Venezuela, like we're seeing them try to do for Greenland. And it all ties in, of course, with the Honduran president, who was former president, who was pardoned. The idea that this is some sort of hypocrisy, that this one guy gets a free pass for doing an international drug trade and narco-terrorism, but this guy, we have to bomb his country to arrest him, to serve him a fucking warrant, and then drag him out of his country and try him in the US for doing narco-terrorism and international drug trade. That hypocrisy is the point. The idea that they can do these contradictory things and nobody can tell them no is an expression of the power that they have, and they enjoy flaunting that fact. So, last piece that I have on the sort of aftermath that we've started to find ourselves in of this shooting. I want to first point out the massive protests in support of Renee that have been happening in Minneapolis and across the United States. Numbers from Minneapolis that I've heard quoted are protests some 430,000 people strong, which is fucking massive. That is awesome to see. So many people coming out in support. There is community action that people are learning about. So many lessons have been learned from Chicago that are continuing to be learned in Minneapolis for how to effectively organize to thwart these ICE tactics, this door-to-door bullshit that they're trying to do now. So that is awesome, seeing people share what they've learned and being effective at disrupting these people. And I finally want to call out Gavin Newsom for continuing to fail to meet the moment of basically everything. Let me see if I can quickly figure out where this was from. I wish I had a quote here, a source for this, but this is part of alt text say? No, it's just quoting what it says. Interview that Newsom was in, talking about what was happening. So I'm just going to quote here. At the inaugural, the next president announces that he's turning the page. He caught himself, or she is turning the page on all of this. Throngs of boos may be in the audience. I don't know, because there's a sense of vengeance, and two can play this game. Fight fire with fire. more editorializing. At the same time, he thought that this country was exhausted. Quote, there is an Isaiah part of all this. We need whoever the next president is to be a repairer of the breach. That should be a big part of the messaging for the next president. I hope they can maybe read the Serenity Prayer. I'm sorry, Newsom. Turning the page on all of this. It has been, what, 5 days? Go fuck yourself.
Newsom.
What an idiot. What a completely useless, inept politician. To take time out of his brief statement here to use a performative, he's turning the page or she is turning the page, to then completely miss the actual political center of what's happening right now, of a person was just shot by the government.
Can I give an observation I've come to deal with thinking about Newsom?
Please.
He's the preemptive reincarnation of Chuck Schumer.
I think that's pretty fitting.
Isn't he?
Yeah. He's probably closer to Jeffries, but they're very much all still the same side of the same coin.
Okay, the only reason I say Chuck is because Jeffries doesn't go like looking for a camera as much as Chuck does. At least in my experience.
I can appreciate that, yeah.
Because, like, back when I was working at the radio station, I had to prepare sound bites every day. Every day, shit you not, Chuck Schumer, right there in the middle of my fucking inbox. Damn you, Chuck.
For a quick wrap up of some other news things that have happened over the last couple. I mean, this is really mostly just from the last week because there's been obviously other more important things happening. There have been revisions to job numbers from October and November that are concerning, I think, to say the least. They also released the first December job numbers, claiming that we added 50,000 jobs. October was revised down from minus 68,000, which was already really bad when we were talking about this. It has now been revised down to minus 173,000 jobs. November has been revised down to by another 8,000 jobs to plus 56,000. So, even in the world where it is true that November added 56,000 jobs and December added 50,000 jobs, there's still net some 65,000 jobs that we have lost in the last quarter in the US economy. These are numbers that genuinely have not been seen like this since COVID. It is surreal to see that these are the numbers that we're actually still getting out of the government, especially as they've gutted the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell's, announced that they believe these numbers are overstated by about 60,000. So in reality, all of these could be negative. And that would mean that employment is actually down for 3 months. And we are in the second month of a recession. So, yeah, it's really bad.
May I give a small, I don't know, observation? I'm kind of the opinion, right, that everybody says, like, we're losing jobs to, like, AI, just because, like, it's automation being done. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think we're losing jobs due to everybody's seen the bubble popping, and they need to make themselves survivable for the bubble popping.
Yep. I don't even know that. I would strongly argue that there was never any real meaningful loss of jobs due to AI. We might have had corporate executive types try and cut jobs very knee-jerkingly as a result of that. But I follow Ed Zitron in his work, and he has been going out and trying to find like a single example anywhere of a job that was replaced by AI and that worked. And it's all just empty platitudes. There's
Sure.
not anything specific that anyone is willing to put their name on. And I think pretty strongly that that's the core of what we've been seeing here, where there's not jobs being replaced by AI. It is just being used as an excuse to cut heads. So, yeah, whole thing is very dumb. And now RAM prices are through the roof because of it.
That being said, uh, shout out to people who are just modifying computers instead of getting the new shit.
Mm-hmm.
That I could, if I had money or like knew how to invest, I'd probably start investing in that right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a an element of that to be sure. I was saying that apparently, like two generations, 2 years ago, hardware has moved up into being some of the most purchased computer hardware because it runs older memory that is affordable.
It,
Um, Ultimately, though, a lot of the problem of this is the same problems that we see across a lot of industries in the US, especially, where something like half of all discretionary spending in the US is spent by the top 10% of earners. And that perpetuates these things where for those types, spending $1,500 instead of $1,000 on a graphics card or $2,000 instead of $500 on their RAM, it sucks still, but they're going to spend it because they don't care. They want their computer, they want the best of the best, and they don't have to worry about that kind of stuff.
can you hear that forklift that's outside?
Nope.
I have a forklift, not like a forklift, sorry. It's like, I don't know what the hell that thing is. It's like an excavator. They're like just shoveling snow with an excavator outside, and it's fucking loud. Okay, I'm probably going to die in this room because I just shut my window, but.
Last couple of stories. Um, People using AI image generation technology to produce, I don't know, deep fakes, I guess would be one way of calling them, but fundamentally to take images of largely women, often, children as well, and have images generated of those people naked or in sexual positions.
Yeah.
It's not a new thing. It's been happening for a while. People have been talking about that going on for a while, but in this last couple of weeks, we have seen Grok, Twitter's AI chat box, and now image generator become by far the most common way of doing that. It has taken it from a thing that weird people are doing on weird corners of the internet and has effectively made it go mainstream.
You know what I found very interesting about this Grok bullshit?
Hmm?
So, Elon announced after Grok had its like seizure and all this shit, right? He was going to start making the algorithm like open source coding, which I think is what's the word I'm looking for? Plausible deniability about his whole like child porn industry he's running on there.
Yep.
Yeah. That's really fucking sketchy.
Yeah. The whole thing is super messed up. Various governments of the world have been taking this seriously. Thankfully, not the U.S. government, of course, but they have still, been having a lot of pushback against, the whole making CSAM thing. It's really bad, and to go and put that fire out, we had Elon Musk doing an interview with the BBC. I actually haven't read through this yet, but I'm curious of what this is, what he actually said here. Okay. So I like the BBC's headline. I think it's very accurate of the situation, but I'm going to read through first what they have in the article as their quote here. So this is from the BBC. Elon Musk has said critics of his social media site X are looking for, quote, any excuse for censorship after its artificial intelligence chatbot Grok drew criticism over its use to create sexualized images of people without their knowledge or consent. The original headline for this article is that preventing the sharing of sexualized images of children is censorship, according to Elon Musk. And I do think that that is a very fair interpretation of that statement. When you're being asked about your AI chatbot that is distributing, sexualized images of children, as they put it, and your answer is to cry, they're looking for any excuse of censorship. Come on.
Come on.
Try harder.
You used to be better at this, damn you. Get off the ketamine.
So we'll see how this turns out. Right now, the talk seems to be about whether the UK Parliament will decide to block access to Twitter in their country. If this is what it takes, great. I feel like that would probably be, something that should have happened a long time ago for other reasons. But hey, if something's got to push it over the edge, I guess this is as good as anything. Apparently, Twitter is trying to justify what they've been doing by saying that they have limited Grok's image generation tools to only being available to paying X users. So that clearly makes it okay now.
Yeah. Now it's a fucking service, you sick fuck.
Last story I have today that is just, normally I probably wouldn't talk about it, but it is just so dumb. Not dumb, it's just so like, what are we doing here? What is the actual goals of this government that I think it feels worth a mention? RFK Jr. was on Fox News today, and we have a good quote from him here talking about the food stamp program. One of the things we're doing is requiring that any facility, any store that accepts food stamps will have to double the amount of whole food that is now available to recipients. So that will change the marketplace around the country. We talked about this briefly before the show. There's two sides of this. If that happens, that is objectively a good thing. Get people more fruits and vegetables, whole grains, stuff like that. On the other hand, those are going to be more perishable foods, and hopefully people who have food stamps can still get access to shelf-stable goods that aren't going to go bad before they can then go and get more food. That would obviously be a bad thing. The other side of this is that if you're someplace that doesn't have access to whole foods, depending on how the hell they actually define what that means, maybe you just don't take food stamps anymore. This could be a good thing. This could just as well be a backhanded approach that has not been unknown to this government in the past, to make this program harder to access by imposing additional restrictions and limits. This is shades of voter ID laws kind of thing. So,
I mean, okay, I talked about this before the show, but I still want to give it credit where it's due. RFK occasionally will say something I agree with, right?
Yeah.
It's a shitty day that happens. It's like that fucking article, heartbreaking. The worst person you know made a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, RFK, and that is...
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, RFK, on paper, I think does have an idea of, what's wrong and what could be better.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he's very bad at executing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe it was done by Some More News on their YouTube channel, but I believe it was them. There is a video they published talking about the current health movement in the US in general, and how it is something that is born out of people seeing real problems that need to be fixed, with people having inaccess to healthy, in this case, whole foods. People see the government's failure to respond effectively to the problems that they're presented to their lives, and they want solutions to those problems. But they then go about figuring out those solutions in the complete wrong ways. They get, because they're not scientists, you know? Fundamentally, they're not. They don't have the knowledge to fully understand a lot of these things that they're trying to talk about, that they're trying to understand. And you do get people like RFK and the people in his circles that proceed to exploit that hole in people's knowledge, where there's a problem that is happening that people are not being educated on, and these people are coming in and inserting themselves with misinformation, with garbage like raw milk or alternative vaccine schedules.
I would say one of the biggest things for me, right? I think there is this fundamental nutrition illiteracy in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree, there is this very, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, because like I don't want to say it is a fitness or like health concern. I think it's a vanity concern because you see a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
like make jokes about Ozempic or GLP-1s.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, there's like this very scary um, dependency, I think, that people get out of those. And people are waking up to the idea that they are a little powerless in these situations, and it's not fair at all.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yep.
you know, it's like one of those things that people say, like, being thin is a class privilege now. And we're getting closer and closer to that kind of like realization. Even now, with like, again, Ozempic GLP-1s, that kind of even further feeds into that being thin is a privilege now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really wish there was this whole Department of Education or something that could like institutionalize like a home ec class, like a cooking class, or like a general nutrition outside of just like biology disguised as a health class. That'd be pretty cool. And I think that if public education will do it, maybe community centers should open up more to those kind of classes.
Definitely. Yeah. It fundamentally starts with the failures of our government to run an effective education department,
Yeah.
often on purpose. Well, with that, do you want to do a quick movies roundup?
There's no
There's not
movies.
much.
It's fuck you. It's
Technically,
January. Yeah. Sorry.
I have two. I have two. It is fuck you. It's January though. I'm
Yeah.
I'm waiting for RLM to release that video because I feel like it's coming. um, the only like especially serious release that I was able to find this week is called "Is This Thing On?" It is a comedy drama, a dramedy. As their marriage quietly unravels, Alex, played by Will Arnett, faces middle age and an impending divorce, seeking new purpose in the New York comedy scene, while Tess, Laura Dern, confronts the sacrifices she made for their family, forcing them to navigate co-parenting, identity, and whether love can take a new form.
Neat.
So 85 from critics, 84 from audiences. And then the other one that I wanted to mention, this is a Gerard Butler flick that I am only bringing up because it has Marina Brecker in it. I like her. She's a good actress. Um, Greenland 2, Migration.
Fucking hell. That is good timing.
I I don't know how they do it, but they did it.
They probably had this sitting around for a while and they were just waiting.
I don't think so, because I vaguely remember when did the other one? Yeah, they released the first Greenland movie in 2020.
Damn.
So it's just
Okay.
yeah. Good timing though. Worked out for him.
I gave it two dongs way up. I don't even know if someone's letting
I
me
will
get that
say
up.
this is very funny. On Rotten Tomatoes page for Gerard Butler, they have news and interviews for with Gerard Butler. Two of the three are related to the Razzies Awards.
I'll deal with that. That's good.
I guess that's good to be aware. Golden Globes are coming up tonight. I'd forgotten about that. I guess we'll have to see how that turns out next week.
Did we even get like award noms yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, apparently they were released sometime in December. Rotten Tomatoes actually has a really helpful little. It's kind of a fun thing to do if you want to play along at home. They have a little sheet that you can print off that has the full list of all of the nominees, along with what their tomato meter scores were.
Interesting.
As a quick recap, just go through this real quick for the best motion picture categories. Best motion picture drama nominees are Frankenstein, Hamnet, It Was Just an Accident, The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, and Sinners. And best picture musical or comedy are Blue Moon, Begonia, Marty Supreme, No Other Choice, Nouvelle Vague, and One Battle After Another. So,
okay, I'm going to say something right here, right?
And then there's also the animated one, but that's going to get won by K-pop Demon Hunters, very obviously. So I don't even want to go over it. Yeah, go for it.
This is going to be the year of Sinner Sweep. I'm calling it.
Sinners? I hope so. I think that'd be really cool. That was such a good movie that I was really impressed with, even knowing a fair bit about it going in.
Fair. I haven't seen it yet. I can smell it. You know?
Yeah.
It's just like, it's got everything everywhere all at once energy to it for me.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to double check some of these names I remember, but I'm not certain on. But I would like that. I'd enjoy that. Get Michael B. Jordan an award because he killed that shit.
You know, it's so funny. Michael B. Jordan is an amazing actor, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I am almost certain he and I would not get along in real life.
Oh, yeah, I totally could see that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I do have to point out here because, obviously we're on a podcast. There's a Best Podcast Award at the fucking Golden Globes now.
And we're not nominated?
No. Snubbed again.
We do actual shoveling journalism here. Do you know how many citations of other people's work we've put into this?
Yeah. I will say, I've heard of literally none of these.
Well, yeah, I think podcasting's a dying art, to be frank.
Yeah. I know Amy Poehler, she has one of them, but beyond that, nothing.
Podcasting is such an oversaturated market.
Yeah.
And all the podcasters people would want to listen to are in the government right now.
COVID really did ruin everything, didn't it?
Dude, okay, I make this joke a lot, like, because, musician and whatnot, but it's no longer, dude, let's start a band. It's a dude, let's start a podcast.
Really is. Which is kind of sad. I was thinking about that.
Yeah, it is sad. Now I'm kind of wondering if a whole band could do a podcast.
That is one of those things that our housing getting so rent focused has kind of killed, is sort of the idea of the garage band.
Yeah.
People don't have a garage.
People can rent spaces for their band rehearsals now, but...
Oh, for sure. But that was kind of the whole thing, right? Is that you had a bunch of, people who had relatively a fair amount of time on their hand and low responsibilities and a chance to explore those things without investing a ton of money.
Yeah. Well, even then, like, what do I say? This is me going to be bitching about the musicians market right now.
Mm-hmm.
Music is such a hard thing to get into nowadays, and I hate it. It makes me so sad for people. It makes me wonder if I was like my brother's age. My brother's like 17 or whatnot, right? Would I have that interest into music, knowing how hard it is to get in the fucking door nowadays? I'm not even talking about like fame or like making money off the shit. I'm just talking about like actually learning the craft and like enjoying it and getting a chance to play with people and making art,
Hmm.
Like I know I've been flirting with the idea a lot.
I have been.
Yeah. Uh, I'm sorry. I'm using you as my case example of why I think it's
No, you're
hard for people to
fine.
get in. Because you said that like 2 years ago, I think, at this point.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucker. Got me excited for nothing.
It's hard, man. There's the time, of course, with it, right?
Yeah.
And the cost of like buying stuff. But I know maybe I'm weird about this. I am really aware of when I'm making a lot of noise, and I don't want to be an asshole to my neighbors. And I know that there's a lot of instruments that you kind of just have to play them to play them,
Yeah.
and they're going to make noise because that's the point. It's
I
hard.
mean, like, uh, so here's a fun conversation, right? Uh, there's like a generational shift with guitarists lately. There's amp
Hmm.
guitarist, and then there's like dog guitarist. So like an amp guitarist is someone who has like a physical amp that they can play in a three-dimensional space out
Yeah.
loud, and they know how an amp works. And then there's dog guitarists, which use like a digital audio interface to get the sound that they want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you have like this generation of people who, because of just how things are, like I can't say it's good or bad, but it is a distinct difference where people who are dog guitarists will plug into an amp and they won't know how to necessarily like control the feedback of an amp because they never had to deal with
Yep.
feedback before. Um, it's rare. Like I'm not going to say doing an amp is hard, but
Mm-hmm.
it's different. And
Yeah, they're different skills for sure.
yeah, I'm blessed. I get to say I'm both of them because I still have my fucking
Hmm.
my nice little Fendi amplifier that I used in college,
Hmm.
jazz, and I have a Marshall stack out there, and those you know I can monitor and do those just fine. Uh, but like when I'm actually recording like Infamous Orion shit, it's all DAW shit now because it's easier to record in. And well, to be fair, I don't want to work with feedback at the moment. When I do, I'll use the amp.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, but I also have neighbors
Right?
and a $50 noise complaint fee that's always hunting me down.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the kind of thing as well where every once in a while I'll like hear one of my neighbors listening to a movie a little bit too loudly. And I'll be just like, man, I don't want to be that guy.
Aren't you in a condo? How do you get to hear your neighbors' movies?
Well, because it's a like a multiplex kind of thing.
Oh, I was under
Yeah.
the impression it was like a unit.
Well, it is like in and out. I have my own garage. All that is separate, but I do have. There's another unit above me, and there's two units on the side, so it's
Okay,
all attached.
neat.
Hmm. That's how I was able to afford it.
Dude, I shit you not. I thought you were just making really fucking good money. I was low key jealous of you.
No, I did get it was a number of factors that worked together towards it. Frankly, white privilege kind of shit, but um, yeah, I looked at detached homes, and there was a couple of them that would have been in my budget, but needed way more work than I had the time to put in and the money to put in to get them into a state that would have been, good enough. So,
I feel that.
mhm.
I think I'm getting more used to the idea of a condo nowadays. Uh, unfair as it
Yeah,
is.
I pushed against it for a really long time because I've known about this particular group of condos for a couple of years since I moved into Portage, and um, I was against it because I had this idea of just like, I'm in an apartment. I don't want to be just in a different apartment, but basically the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Dude, it's rough because, like,
it sucks. But it is like the alternative for me at the time was like, all right, I'm gonna be stuck in this apartment with the costs going up year after year, regardless. I might as well at least be able to build, equity, I guess, right?
yeah. And,
So,
you're,
yeah.
you're I don't even know how to put this. Like it is more
I
of an
will
investment
say,
than a standard apartment.
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say though that having it be a condo does help a lot with that sort of transition because I do have stuff like garbage and lawn mowing and snow paid for by the condo fees. So
That is nice.
it's a good stepping stone. I was going to say though, state of Michigan has a really awesome first time home buyer down payment assistance program. That was the
Yeah,
only reason I was able to do this at all. So
I actually, I'm holding out because I don't want to use that yet. But
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. That's all I got.
Cool. Well, it's a short one this week, everybody, but quite frankly, things are fucking depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Mr.
Absolutely.
Ryan, and I've been Schmo.
And I'm Cairo, and I've management.
Woohoo.